Hello and welcome. You're tuned to The Leg Up, your weekly thoroughbred preview podcast, TAB Trackside's most popular television show. I think it's official, Paul, isn't it? Good morning.
100%. I think if you check Wikipedia, it'll be right at the top there. So, yeah.
And we're here for the big dance, Karaka Million night. Doesn't get much bigger than this, Stephen. Huh?
No,
good morning.
No, it's probably over the last 5 to 6 years, it's become the biggest meeting on the racing calendar. Karaka Million, only 6 races, but vintage fields, and probably want a bit more. Maybe they can make it an 8-10 race program in the future. That's how strong the card is. But yeah, look, at the track's going to be okay. We'll talk about that in the short term. They'll get a decent crowd. Obviously, it's moved from Ellerslie to Pukekohe, but we've got some boom fields, as you mentioned, including the 3-year-old and the 2-year-old features.
Yeah, it was a piece of great races to sink our teeth into here, Paul.
It certainly will be. You mentioned like the last 5 or 6 years. Well, it's almost been a Tiako benefit in terms of the 2-year-old race.
It certainly
the
has.
last 5 or 6 years. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It'll be a big sort of night there, as it always is, even though they've shifted about half an hour south down the motorway.
Yeah, hopefully it won't take too much away from it. And I think the man that we have right on the scene is Brendan Popwell at Pukekohe Racecourse. Good morning, BP. Come in.
Good morning, team. Yes, welcome in. And we're here before the eve of what is an enormous race night coming up. Of course, 6 of the best. And I like the fact that it's 6 races too, because it just leave the racecourse wanting a little bit more, and then that means you have to be back here again for 2024's edition of Karaka Million Night. So fields have stacked up. I think we've got, in terms of our 2- and 3-year-old races, possibly, the 2 best races we've seen for quite some time in our age group races for the Karaka Million 2-year-old and 3-year-old race, and a very strong undercard. How many will the Tangerine win? Of course, they have an opportunity of trying to go for the clean sweep, but they've got strong chances through each and every race. They've got short price favourites, of course, with Imperatriz will go around at $1.40. Maven Bell will be very well found. And of course, the key man in Opie Bosson going the way of Trobriand in the 2-year-old Karaka Million. And Wild Knight, his ride coming up in the 3-year-old $1 Million Classic. But it's hot. It's going to be hot here as well for the racing action, which starts just after 4 o'clock. That track condition in that soft 5 bracket, they put some moisture on the track throughout the week. We've had about 15 mils in total in terms of rain throughout the week. So really, it should be spot on by the time we get to race number 1.
Yeah, okay, Steve, before we get into this, we've got plenty to get through. We probably haven't even spoken about last week's events, and we saw Levante doing the business in the Telegraph Handicap.
She goes back to back. I think the last 6 years we've had 3 horses go back to back, unbelievably, in the Telegraph, and that railway form just stacking up with Babylon Berlin running Bridesmaid into that 2nd position once again. Look, I was on course on Saturday, had a really good vibe, decent crowd. Out of the 4 days over the carnival, you'd have to say Telegraph Day has been made out for the purist. A lot of racegoers there, owners, etc. And no, it was a good vibe, decent crowd, good weather. Look, I was a little bit against 7 days ago how the track would play and if there was a strong bias with the rail going back in the true, but I thought the track played really well, so I'm happy to be proven wrong there. Yes, there was a few horses that came from back and wide, but I think that was tempo related. The anniversary, you had Ballon Rouge, Cognito and the Guineas, and even Ladies Man and the Trentham Stakes were all set up by really strong tempos to the 600, Segundo, etc. So I think those horses that were back worse in midfield or just round that zone were helped by the tempo. But look, there was still a slight bias inside, I thought, but not as strong as I anticipated 7 days ago.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, there was a bias towards Stephen Marsh in those first 3 races. Hey?
Yeah, he hurt us
Not
there
a bad
wee
way
bit,
to start the day.
He wouldn't mind hurting us though, old March. He would have to be fair.
No, very well done.
Yeah, okay. Well, we've got 4 races we want to get to, but we don't want to start without touching on your Maidener of the Week's, Pops. Where did you land this week?
Yeah, it certainly went to Wednesday's race meeting out of Te Rapa. It was a good race card, wasn't it? A lot of horses to keep the eyes on. And Andalus, just one of those horses we've been waiting to either crack a maiden or even a good race, because he's competed in good races. We know he's been stakes placed as a 2-year-old. This is a really good effort, wasn't it? He was a horse who got across heels and he really let down in the concluding stages. So it sets him out, doesn't it? Now, it's a horse that is trying to get to that Derby path, and he's a good quality 3-year-old out of the Stephen Marsh barn. So we've been waiting for it. He delivered for that for punters on Wednesday, and certainly you'd imagine him and a couple of others out of that race are ones to follow for our Maiden of the Week.
Absolutely. Nice win, Steve. Andalus.
He's always shown that. Stephen Marsh presented him as a juvenile and always said that we'll see the best of him as a 3-year-old. Look, he was very firm late. I think he closed roughly 2 points in the last 5 minutes. Hawke's Bay just didn't suit in terms of a sit and sprint affair, but he still ran the best sectionals in that particular race, and he franked that form next start at Te Rapa, where, as I mentioned, was quite firm late in betting. So he rewarded the punters there, and look, he's heading towards a derby, working back from a derby, so I think he's roughly a $31 chance, and prior to that victory he was 61. So look, he's got the pedigree to get over Trip, and he's one of many chances which we'll see in the coming weeks eyeing that 2,400 metre journey.
Yeah, okay. Well, we better get stuck into it, team, because we've got plenty to get through. We want to touch on 4 races at Pukekohe. We're going to go to track conditions first, though, Steve, and what are we expecting come tomorrow afternoon?
As BP mentioned, the weather's played its part heading to Saturday. They've had a little bit of rain in the last week or so, but not a huge amount. 7 millimetres of irrigation went on the track last night, Thaddeus. It's presented a soft 6. Look, we'll probably come back to a soft 5 later on today, and I think they'll be hoping for a soft 5 bordering on a soft 4 or a good 4 tomorrow morning. As we know, the first race is post 4 o'clock, so you can guarantee it will be a good track come race 1.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's start. Well, we're going to start race number 6. That's the 3-year-old race, the Karaka Million 3-year-old classic, over the mile, Steve, and we'll run us through this market. Is it a match race? We'll ask Pops in a minute. Run us through this market, Steve.
Legato heads the market. Thad opened 220, got as high as 250, driven back into 230, holds 2 times more money than Wild Knight. But in saying that, Wild Knight has also been a well-backed commodity. In terms of betting, Legato, Wild Knight, they account for 60% of the current hold. We're looking at, roughly 36 hours of trading thus far. So Legato, 230 off a peak of 250. Wild Knight opened at 340 on Wednesday, has been backed into 280. Pro S $8.50. Sacred Satono bouncing between 8.50 and 9. Double figures around the Intimidator at 14 off the original price of 10. Desert Lightning 16 out to 21 shares the same price as Devastate. Devastate has been a well-backed runner in the middle market, currently a losing liability for the tab. Dynastic 31s. Wessex got as high as 41, just back into $31, and Channel Surfers best of the rest at 41. So overall summary, Legato, best back runner. As I mentioned, 2 times more money v Wild Knight, but Wild Knight also a well-backed second fave.
Okay, and what about a speed map here, Steve? Do you have one for us? This will be intriguing.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of pressure from middle to out barriers, including Wessex, as we saw this individual. It finally got to the lead in the 8 carat on Boxing Day and ran them along well above even tempo, Wessex. So I think they'll look to do the same race shape here with Wessex and go out at a nice clip. I've got Sacred Satono. He's an interesting runner. Michael McNabb drawn the outside gate. Now, he drew an outside gate in the Uncle Remus and decided to come across and had to do a little bit of work, but I think he'll do the same here and sit outside Wessex. The Intimidator, 390, Kafir, all have tactical speed. I think they'll come across some sticky gates. Pro S Devastate should get a nice run and just behind the first 4 or 5 there. Dynastic, I just got him forward in midfield there. He did take a spot in the Auckland Guineas. He trailed on that occasion, but I just feel a little bit of pressure outside him. He might get shuffled back just worse in midfield or around that midfield position. Now, the intriguing runners, Legato and Wild Knight. I've got Legato just worse than midfield from Barrier 1, and Wild Knight, Opie Bosson. Now, I think they'll try and be as positive as they can from Barrier 2, but again, with just that natural speed outside him, I think he'll find himself around midfield. But the key is Opie will have Ryan Elliott inside him. We'll talk about that more in depth in the next 5 to 10 minutes, but intriguing between the 2 favourites that they've drawn right beside each other, 1 and 2, and then you've got Desert Lightning and Channel Surfer. I think they've got no option but to default to the last third. But with Wessex being in the field, I think overall tempo will be above par.
Okay. BP, it's an interesting map, isn't it, with Legato drawing 1 and Wild Knight drawing 2. Is this a match race, the 3-year-old? I'm not so sure.
Look, there's enough depth through the race to say that it isn't a match race. I think getting the horses drawn right next door to each other adds a serious good element to this race, doesn't it? Because it just means that Ryan has that opportunity of tracking Opie everywhere, and if he can get on the tail of Wild Knight, look, it's the right horse to be following if he can get into that type of position. So I think the depth of this field, though, certainly lends itself to say that Sacred Satono, the Intimidator, Proware, star horses in their own right that have shown that they are more than capable of winning this race also with the right run. So, look, I don't think it's a match race. I think it's a race where those 2 at the top of the book have proved that they are the ones to beat, but those others that I mentioned certainly deserved chances in this race coming up. What is going to be the best way to end Karaka Million Night 2023.
Yeah, 100%. Well, look, Wild Knight and that Uncle Remus, Paul. He just keeps winning, doesn't he? It's some strong form race with Sacred Satono and the like. This is a tough one, isn't it?
It was a tough one. Here he is just peeling to the outside now. And OP sticks with Wild Knight. And I guess when OP's on a Tiako runner on Karaka Million Night, I get the feeling that Steve and his boys decide to just wind it in a rung or two.
Someone called it OP tax, didn't they?
Yeah,
OP tax.
well, and I guess that OP factor, does that mean that you're getting a wee bit more value on the likes of a Legato? Because they've got to tighten the screws slightly on Wild Knight. As BP said, I love the fact that they're both drawn beside one another, and he said that Ryan Elliott will have the opportunity, if he does have the opportunity, to maybe follow Wild Knight. But that also gives Opie the opportunity to lock Legato away and pull out when he decides that he needs to. So it's a fascinating. I mean, we've got the likes of Sacred Satono, Prow West, Desert Lightning, who I think Satono and Desert Lightning were in that Uncle Remus as well, weren't they? So I don't see it as just the top of the market.
Okay, well that's interesting. I mean, that was a strong form race, Steve. Wild Knight's been very good, and he's only been defeated once, I believe. So, right in the market, obviously.
Yeah, and he ran a slashing last 600, almost broke 33 seconds. The only horses to beat his time on the day were horses that were tried over 11 and 1200 metres. So it was a cracking last 600. He had to be sharp because he had to come from worse in midfield on a day that they were running very quick overall time. So, look, he has that turn of foot. Opie will try and present him in clear air, even though it's a sticky gate for him to do that from barrier 2. But I think Opie will be looking to get this horse in clear air because he does have the best turn of foot from what I see in numbers in the race, even in front of Legato. But just out of the Uncle Remus, other horses outside the winner, Sacred Satono, again, as I mentioned on the map, will have to go forward from a wide gate, sit outside the lead of Wessex. I do have a question mark around this run over 1600 metres. I've got him sharped or penciled as a horse long-term over 1400 metres, ideally. 1600, as I mentioned, I don't think that's going to be a sit-and-sprint affair with Wessex in the field. So he may look the winner, 200 for home, but that last furlong, Sacred Satono, I've just got a bit of a query purely on how the race is going to be run and looking to the future. I think he's a genuine star when it comes to the sprinting ranks next season in races like the Railway and the Telegraph. So 1600 will be his real acid test there for number 3. The Intimidator, look, I was a little bit disappointed. He was first up against Sacred Satono in the Bone Crusher, headed Sacred Satono, and then Sacred Satono came underneath him and won him and bet him on that occasion. And I thought, right, the Intimidator, second up after a bit of a spell, will have his opportunity to beat Sacred Satono and the Uncle Remus. And it didn't work out that way. And his last 200 was just a little bit off compared to horses that finished around him. So, yeah, look, I'm a little bit of a query around the Intimidator, has to be said. And he has got a little bit of a sticky gait. But, yeah, just a bit of a query. Desert Lightning. BP, what did you think of Desert Lightning? He was the one horse that probably had the most improvement coming out of the Uncle Remus. What was it, 51 days since the 2000 Guineas when he ran second to Pierre, and his last 200 was the best in the race. Could you see him possibly being a chance to improve on that finishing position in the Uncle Remus?
I do, because if you look at his run, obviously behind Pierre, I mean, he's gone up to beat Pierre in the 2000 Guineas, and Pierre, he was a hard horse to get past, and he denied Desert Lightning. So if you go on that 2000 Guineas form reference, up to 1600 metres for him, I think it looks ideally suited for him. I think he's one of those horses away from the top 3 or 4 that are in single figures, where he's presented at a big price at the $16 quote. Look, Money would have told us on Boxing Day that maybe he just wasn't quite ready for Boxing Day, but was going to run well. He has run well. He's only 4 lengths off them. That was over 1400 metres. He gets to 1600 metres. It's a race where I think he can be a chance for top 4 players looking for any type of power plays and all those sort of multiple bets. I think he's a player away from those top 4 or 5 just because of how well he did run. And what I think is probably the key form reference, because it's our best 3-year-old race we've seen so far this year, and that being, of course, the Uncle Remus here on Boxing Day.
Yeah, well, let's focus in on the favourite, Pop, so let's stay with you. Obviously, Legato, she's undefeated, and look, that run on Boxing Day, look, there was threatening that she may get potentially beaten, but class prevailed here, didn't it?
It did, and I mean, look, at this point here in the race, as you can see, Wessex is at a massive margin in the race, and you would have been concerned. Look, let's not beat around the bush here. But then once she started to balance up and really work through her gears, she's actually won this race rather comfortably. Once they hit the red paint, you can see that Ryan Elliott, about 100 off the line, is very kind to her, and she just breezes straight on by. I mean, that was quite a phenomenal win, wasn't it, really? When you take what happened in that race, how they tried to beat Legato, massive ups to those that were sitting up on speed and put Wessex into the race. That was the best way Wessex was going to try and win, and they nearly pulled it off. So I love what they did tactically in the race there, but Legato proved her pure class, and we get to see her take on the boys this weekend, and that's what I love about this race, is that she's a high-class filly that is unbeaten, put them to the sword in the 1,000 guineas with so much going wrong in that race. She pulled off a victory like that. Boy, she's a 3-year-old filly that has just got something about her, hasn't she? She has got X Factor written all over him, and so often we've spoken highly about Australia with her. I mean, she just looks that type of filly where she can compete with the best out of Australia, and that's why it makes this race so good, because there is a lot of layers to this race with where she's drawn, what's going to happen tactically, her biggest danger drawn outside her. And that's why I think it's also going to be a terrific betting contest. Where do the prices end up? How far does she drift out before punters go, come on, this is Legato. She can't keep pushing out any further. And if you're on Wild Night, you're probably thinking, well, hang on, I can probably save if she does go that way. So I just love how many different layers there are to this race leading up to the contest on the, 7:28 on Saturday night.
Yeah, well, speaking of layers, Steve, I mean, we saw the Auckland Guineas with Prowess getting the job done there on New Year's Day, and look, she's not out of this either, speaking of layers, as BP mentions.
No, look, what you probably don't see the first half of the race, it was a gun ride from Warren Kennedy in the Auckland Guineas. He was able to control the tempo sitting second outer. The key about his ride is that he wasn't right on the cusp of heading Lindsay Southerly on the leader. He was within a length to suggest, okay, just not put too much pressure on the leader. They went just below even tempo, but they've rattled home nice sectionals late. Waitek is a very good horse. You put Waitek into the Karaka Classic, and he'd be in the top 2 or 3 in betting. There's no doubt around Waitek. So, look, she's beaten a very good horse who's run into second. Overall class rating, above par fractionally. You normalise that against the Uncle Remus. Probably needs to improve 3/4 of a length, so it's not a huge amount for Prowess. She's got a draw to get a nice run, Prowess. I've definitely got her as the third elect here, Prowess, and because of the way she maps here, she's right in it.
Okay, Paulie, what are you going to do here? Are you going with Legato, are you going with Wild Night, or are you going to throw us one of your Paul Moate curveballs here in the 3-year-old?
Look, I do like Legato, I really do. Stephen mentioned just before the mile. There's only a few runners in this classic that are actually being tested and won over the 1,600 metres, Legato being one of them, Prowess another one, and the Andrew Forsman runner, Devastate, who opened up at around, I think $18, drifted out to 31 and it's now back into $21 with Joe Doyle aboard. Got the 4 barrier. Maybe that's worth a little each way go. But yeah, I love Legato.
You go Legato?
Yeah, I do.
BP, which way are you leaning? Legato, Wild Night, or something else? I know you'll be one of those top 2.
I'm going Wild Night. I feel as though there's a chance here and an edge to try and get in front of Legato at some stage, and that's going to be the key, because it's just going to come down to small margins around this race, isn't it? And I think I'll go with Wild Night with what he produced in the Uncle Remus, and if he can get a crucial length on Legato, could that be enough to be able to hold her out in the concluding stages? A couple of other things I will mention around this race. I'll tell you what, 12 months ago, when the 2-year-old Karaka Million Classic, the 2-year-old Karaka Million was completed, I'll tell you what, if you guys put out a market for Dynastic to win this race, he would have been favourite and punters would have been keen to back him, because with what you saw in his performance on that day, you just went, wow, 1,600 metres, bring on next year. We knew it was going to be here. Wow, big long straight. This boy will be winning, and he'll be doing the double. He'll be doing a probabile. I mean, he's at $31 Dynastic, isn't it? It's remarkable what can happen. He's been gelded since. It just hasn't quite been his season as a 3-year-old for Dynastic. So again, that's another layer to add to what is going to be an intriguing race. I think Desert Lightning's the one at a top 4 price if you're trying to find something away from those favoured runners, where he's a proven 1600 metre Group 1 horse, Desert Lightning. He'd be hovering around, what is he at, sort of 3s for top 4, somewhere like that. But I like Wild Knight just in front of Legato.
Okay.
It's so tough to do the double. Since the 3-year-old race became $1 million race, it's so just probably, I think she's the only one.
I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah, there wouldn't be too many that have run in it.
No.
But just on before we go to the next race, just
hurry,
on Legato.
Steve. You better hurry.
Just on Legato, look, it was very good on the eye, but just crunching some numbers. In the last 600, they've run 35-35, 4.9 lengths below par. In fact, if you look at all the last 600s on that day, it was even slower to the rating 75.22, which was produced earlier in the day. So she was passing some very tired horses, Legato, which probably on the eye looked stronger than what the performance was. And if you just normalise that overall performance to the Uncle Remus, it's 1.7 lengths inferior. So, look, I'm not saying she's the one to beat, but at $2.30, there is a few variables against her just on that performance in the 8 carat.
Okay, going to be an intriguing race nonetheless. The battle of the sexes, the unbeaten filly versus the very, very good gelding colt. Wild Knight, gelding.
Gelding.
Yeah. In this year's 3-year-old classic, going to be one to watch. Last race on the card. We've got to get to the main race, the 2-year-old race, the Karaka Million 2-year-old, over the 1,200 metres. Stephen, run us through this market.
Well, no surprise. Had a real reshuffle when the draws were released on Wednesday morning. Trobion, who was sitting at roughly around that $5 second line and all-in betting, Opie Bosson declares himself on that individual out of the Tiakau Assault, and he's now a $3 favourite. He was roughly around $3.40, $3.60 post barrier draws, and he's been backed into $3 flat. He accounts for roughly 50% of the whole Trobion, and as I mentioned, that Opie Bosson factor is huge when it comes to this particular race. In front of Ethereal Star, 7 into 5.50. Tokyo Tycoon, 5 out to 6. And Pendabell, hard in that 4th line at $7. Taliska, 6 out to 7.50. Olanova, well backed. Got a size 14 off the original price of 10. That has been backed into 12. Dapper, 16. Got a short as 14, just back out to $16. She Turns Heads at 26. And best of the rest is Balance of Power and Believe in Magic. Another Tiakau pair at $31, each of 2. So look, overall summary, Trobion best bet, runner no surprise, 380 into 3.
Okay, BP, are you willing to cop your Opie tax on Trobriand this year in the 2-year-old, or you're going to go somewhere else?
Well, look, I mean, it was interesting, wasn't it? I mean, we all knew that he was picking between the 2 horses. And look, there was a real opportunity here, a week out, to play both of them. I mean, one was at $4, the other was at $5 in the futures market. And then you could just sit back and probably have not a lot of stress in your life and just wait for how the barrier draws fell. And as Stephen said, as soon as that barrier draw came out for Trobriand, he is the favourite. And look, he's the default selection because of Opie taking him on. But I will say this field does seem to have a little bit of depth through it. There is probably more leading Tiakau chances in the race as well, and that's a key point I think we need to make, because the second favourite is Tokyo Tycoon, who could easily be the favourite had it not drawn an outside gate. And I think we all also have to sort of keep in mind horses like Taliska, who was so good when running second behind Trobriand, and even a couple of others like She Turns Head. So I think the overall depth is there, and there's some big dangers away from the Tangerine with Ethereal Star, with how the horse won here. Ulanova, who's got the speed as well. Dapper was a winner here last time to the races. And Impenda Bell, as we know, a Wakefield winner and very good here when finishing into 3rd position. So I think we've got what we need to have a terrific race on Saturday night.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And look, at Tokyo Tycoon was the original favourite, Paul. And I mean, this was a very, very good win on Boxing Day, doing the business, beating a very good horse in Impenda Bell.
Yeah, and both of them serious chances in the 2-year-old race this year. Look, obviously Tokyo Tycoon was the pre-final field favourite.
Yep.
Then the draw came out, and then Opie decided who he was jumping on, and those odds got turned on their head. I think we're getting a wee bit of value on Tokyo Tycoon now. I know 14 is a long way
Has
out.
it been done, the outside barrier
Has
draw in
been
the
done.
2-year-old race?
Not at Pukekohe.
No.
So that adds another sort of layer to this race. But I think I really like the look of Tokyo Tycoon at the price. $6 currently. Might even get a wee bit more come race day. Craig Zaki aboard. He's been riding very, very well. In fact, I think he was aboard BP's Maiden of the Week that we saw earlier. So yeah, I can't write Tokyo Tycoon off just because of the barrier draw. I'm happy to take the $6 at the moment. And also Impenda Bell, I think is a wee bit of value at $7. McNabb, I think he'll be able to settle a little closer to the lead with the, I think, barrier 5 or 6. And she showed an amount of toughness in her first couple of starts. She got headed in the straight, I think, at Trentham in that first start and just fought back and won with ease. And then had to drop the shoulder next time out and push her way out, and did that as well. So I like a horse that doesn't mind getting into a wee bit of trouble and can still show that sort of class. So Impenda Bell at 7 and Tokyo Tycoon, I think are major chances.
Okay, let's talk the favourite, Steve Trobriand, because this was a good win on Eclipse. They're in the Eclipse Stakes on January the 1st, and forced Opie's hand to some degree. Obviously, that's with the barrier draws included. But good win here.
As BP mentioned, he just picks himself here. He's unbeaten, 3 from 3, comes from the right stable. The jock, Opie Bosson, has tactical speed, which is always important in these juvenile feature races over 1,200 metres. He's decent-sized juvenile, and I think that's what Opie gravitated towards. Possibly if they'd drawn similar gates, Tokyo Tycoon and also Troby, on the fact that he's a big, robust 2-year-old, and if he gets in a little bit of trouble, he can shove and push his way out. Look, the overall figures there now, to the 600, last 600, that's based on open class. It's very rare to see a 2-year-old match open class numbers. The class rating was a little bit below par in terms of his last start, but you go back 2 starts ago, and it was the best performance of any juvenile in the race. He did regress slightly at Te Rapa, but I don't want to totally take a knock around that. Just back on Impenda Bell and also Tokyo Tycoon. BP, what do they do with Tokyo Tycoon? Do they got no option but to default to the last half of the field? Hopefully the speed's on, which on the eye and looking at the map, there looks to be a bit of speed in this race, which naturally there is in a Karaka Million. And hopefully that 3-wide train.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. Look, I mean, there could be 3 or 4 horses pushing forwards because there looks to be a lot of speed out wide. And then you've got to look for, is there a Tangerine runner that also puts themselves in amongst the speed as well? Possibly a horse like Rhetorical for Sam Spratt. So you're looking for outside speed, inside speed Ulanova, and that means it's surely Tokyo Tycoon comes back, takes a sit, and then looks to try and work into the race and finish over the top, and if they just go too mad up front. And if that is the case and it plays into his hands, there's no reason why he's not one of them that is stonking home over the top of them. Look, Impenda Bell's got a better barrier draw to that compared to that race. Of course, their hand was forced. They had a bad gate. They went back and then were able to let the horse roll home strongly into the race. So they conceded lengths by having to go back because of their draw against Tokyo Tycoon. This time, the roles are reversed. So are they able to make the most of their better gate with Impenda Bell? And we saw how tough she was when she was able to win 2 starts ago in a Wakefield. But to answer your question, Hunty, I do believe that Tokyo Tycoon will be looking to sit back, let things happen up front and see if that he's the one that can finish over the top.
What about Ethereal Star, BP? Because, I mean, I think this was favourite at certain points, particularly after this win on November the 19th. It was very impressive. Haven't seen it since, though, but Damien Lane aboard.
Yeah, look, that's a massive get, isn't it? And we know, he rides so well for the Andrew Forsman stable, so he's got good rides throughout the night as Damien Lane. Look, this was on an off track, so we've got to also look into that somewhat, but we've seen the horse been able to perform on a good surface 2 starts ago to the races. I just feel as though this is a horse that's got a little bit of class about her. She's drawn well. She's a runner that... look, away from the Tangerine if you're looking to try and find something. And look, already we've seen money for her to see that early money move, wasn't it, from 7s to around that $5 quote. I think both her and
Touch the
Impenda
race,
Bell
touch the race,
are the
race,
strong
yeah.
dangers away from the Tangerine.
Yeah, okay. And look, I mean, it was good in Ethereal Star, wasn't it? I mean, it looks a very promising type, and just that
She's
gap
going to make
between
a
runs
gun
is going to be
3-year-old.
interesting.
She's the one horse that I want to be taking away from this race, win, lose or draw, and look to the future. Ethereal Star, the pedigree suggests she's going to be a gun 3-year-old. I'll have no surprise if Andrew Forsman's working on a similar plan to Lickety Split in the spring. 1,000 guineas at Caulfield, take her over there early in her prep as a 3-year-old in the spring. 1 or 2 starts heading towards Caulfield, but her chances on Saturday, look, she's a chance. She maps well, she's got the ideal gait, she's going to be firm late purely around the Damien Lane factor, and her overall figure in the Challenge Stakes is roughly around about 3/4 of a length inferior to Trobion's PB, so she's right in the race. Whatever she does, she's a big improver as we look forward to a 3-year-old campaign.
Okay, and Paulie, anything else here? I mean, Dapper, Believe in Magic, Faravello stepped out recently, January the 8th, and Dapper won well.
We've had a few nibbles. She turns heads.
Oh, okay.
At $26. Surprise, surprise, another Tiago runner with the services of Jake Bayliss. So it's and wouldn't be the first time that a $20 plus Tiago runner won.
Well, it's a different form line, right?
Race.
It's a different form line. It's got
Totally.
that Codigo
Yep.
form line, which was franked at Trentham in a stakes race on Saturday. So, look, she hasn't won a race yet, but you look at her 2 seconds, one behind Tokyo Tycoon and Codigo, who is now a sub-stakes winner. So, she's probably the best play if you want to look to that middle to end market. She turns heads at $26.
It's very hard to look past Tiago when it comes to the Karaka Million 2-year-old. They've won the last 6 editions. Opie Boston has won 5 of the last 6. In fact, the only one he missed out on was when he was suspended, I think, and Jonathan Parks got to jump on. So
Not a bad payday, is it?
No,
Turn
so
up on Karaka Million, win that.
I can understand why punters are jumping on Trobriand with Opie Boston, Tiago, and the wonderful draw that they've got.
Okay, Pops, where are we settling in this year's Karaka Million 2-year-old? How are you going to attack the race?
Well, one other thing I'll mention is Taliska, and I think this horse has to be mentioned somewhere, because if you look at that race and with how that horse ran and taking sort of the Tiago and Opie Boston factor all away from it, you'd watch that and go, well, gee, this horse is going to lap up a long straight at Pookie for a Karaka Million where there might be some speed on. I mean, that race, the mid-race speed evaporated from that race, and that horse was a long way off them. Trobriand, yes, might have been eased closer to the line, but still was able to run the right sections from back in the field. I just keep coming back to him thinking, well, what's he going to produce on Saturday? He's a real mystery for me, but a horse that is also intriguing me at the same time about that $7 quote. And I think She Turns Heads is that other horse at a ridiculous price where she's got a low draw, she might be able to just tuck him behind them. Great for those DIY punters. Yes, DIY punters that are looking for the power plays. Might be one to throw in for a top 4 or the top 8 option, so you can jump online on the Karaka Million hub and be able to play your DIYs. Look, overall, I'm going with the default selection, and that is of Opie Boston, because he knows how to win the race. He had an opportunity to choose which one he liked. He's gone with the right one in his eyes, with the right barrier draw. I'm really worried about Tokyo Tycoon, because just because Opie's not on it, the horse is out to $5. He's been terrific with what he's done, and if the race is mad up front and he's just smoking his pipe at the back of the field, Craig Zaki just could come sailing on by. So I thought it was between those runners, with Taliska the one where he might be making his run with a Tokyo Tycoon as well. But yeah, a race where I feel a lot closer and even than previous years.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Paulie, your summation of the 2-year-old, who you backing?
Look, I should be backing Trobriand, but I do like the price on Tokyo Tycoon and Impenda Bell, so I will be having a little stab on those 2.
Okay, very good. No minute with Moati this week. You wouldn't believe it. We're running behind time on the leg up. That never happens, but I believe we have a special guest with joining us, Luke Kemmies of Boys Get Paid. Good morning to you. How are the nerves, Luke?
Oh, good lads. I'm surprised you're having me back, having me on.
Yeah, well, after Christchurch, we had to think long and hard, to be perfectly honest. But look, it's building up nicely, that kitty, isn't it? I think we're well over 600,000 now, and you've already had a little dabble into these Karaka Million markets.
Yeah, certainly. I'm wondering where we're going to get to. I think we might end up 800,000 plus by the time we get to that first race on Saturday, which is going to be even a challenge from our side to figure out how to spend it. But don't worry, I think we will figure out how to do that. So we just need to make sure we get them on the winners, but we've got to bet nice and early as well to try and win $1 million and really build up that kitty so we can attack those last 3 races of the night as well.
Yeah, it's all well and good building the kitty up, Luke, isn't it? But you've really got to work out or be very tactical of how you spend that money, because you've got 6 races to really, turn over essentially 800,000 in theory as a minimum. So a lot of tactics involved and a lot of time spent on your behalf, I'd imagine.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was what was the beauty about the Cup Week Punters Club, is that we had such a long time to be able to have a crack, whereas Saturday, it's short, sharp, it's fast. People want to see big bets, and there's only 6 races to have a go at. So they're expecting you to bet into every race, which is, that's fine. We'll certainly find a way to do it. And I think the DIY power plays is a great way that we'll be able to do that too. So we'll be looking to have a few of those on the night.
Yeah, the Karaka Million hub there, the DIY power plays, you can make your own bets, so you better construct a few special sort of bet types. Can you give us a lead into anything, just between you and me, what we might be backing come Saturday afternoon?
I reckon Imperages looks like a pretty good bet. That's about me.
It's like labelling the $1.40 shot. I know you've got plenty more up your sleeve than that.
Yeah.
Where are you guys going to be tomorrow night? What's the plan of attack for BGP and your supporters tomorrow afternoon?
So we've got a good crew, hoping for about 200 people going to be on course at Ellerslie, and we're going to do a live stream from there, which will be broadcast onto Facebook and YouTube in conjunction with the Alternative Comment Collective as well. So people will be able to watch from all over the country, and yeah, we'll still be having a pretty big party at Ellerslie, and they might be able to hear us down there at Pukekohe.
Hey, Kimmy's BP here. Just talking about you. Obviously, you've mentioned a few bets that you're thinking. Is the $1 million collect the holy grail? Is that the one that the lads are really keen to get around and try and get that $1 million multi?
I think the $1 million bet could be the holy grail. So I think we want to try and win $1 million and then drop $1 million on something.
Yes.
Oh, gee, I don't know about that. We'll see about that one. Hey, yeah, exactly. You'll come out swinging. I know that for sure, Luke, tomorrow afternoon. Thank you for joining us. People can still buy into the Punters Club, can't they? There's still time.
Yeah, plenty of time right through to the first race on Saturday. So I think we're going to get past 10,000 people involved pretty easily, which is pretty cool. I remember in year 1 we had basically 520 people involved. So to think that, in our 6th iteration of this, we could end up with close to 15,000 people watching from all over the country, plus a lot of people putting in money on behalf of people or on behalf of syndicates. I've had cricket clubs getting in touch saying, all right, our group that are fundraising for this are putting a little bit into the kitty. So there's a fair bit of pressure on, and there's going to be a lot of eyeballs come Saturday.
Oh, there will certainly be. There's no doubt about that. You've got a huge following, and that's been seen here at headquarters over the last couple of weeks. Good luck tomorrow afternoon. I hope you back a winner or two, maybe. Maybe I can say that. Good luck, Luke.
Thanks, boys. Good luck as well.
Thank you to Luke Chemies for BGP for joining us, and you can still buy into that Punters Club on the website. Go on to tab.co.nz. Easy to find. Okay, guys.
Do you think he enjoys making you boys sweat on
what do you reckon?
a late Saturday afternoon, January?
It doesn't look like that sort of guy, does he? Of course he loves it.
I get the box seat.
We've got 2 massive fans at our desk tomorrow just to give us a bit of conditioning.
Yeah. Up the air conditioning. I'll ask the building to be pumped down to about 15 degrees because we might need it come tomorrow afternoon.
Go the BGP.
Oh, turn it up. Righto, guys. Race number 5 on the card. The Bright Hill Farm Yearling Concord Handicap over the 1,200 metres, Steve. And this is a nice even market.
It is headed by the mare Bonnie Lass. Got a sticky gate. $4.50. Now, the original fave sat with Malt Time, who was $4.20 on Wednesday, just eased out to $4.80. So Bonnie Lass now heads the call at 4.5. Synchronising that third line at $5. Green Aeon, 8 into 6. There's your genuine firmer in the first 36 hours of trading. Fashion Shoot at $10, double figures there. Our Vencedor at 12. Rosen Power, drawn barrier 1, was well backed. First up at Pukekohe, and the punters are reinvesting here, 18 to 13. Gino Severini at 21 and Johnny at 26. So, look, overall summary, Green Aeon, best firmer I can give, 18 to 6. Outside that, betting's just stifled a touch, and I think that's because you can go in so many different directions and slash form.
Yeah, there are plenty of ways you can go here, BP. But look, that win by Synchronising a Hallmark last time out was very impressive. And look, currently third favourite, but it is wide open, isn't it?
It is wide open. This is a great betting race. So we've got a few races where there's matchups and $1.40 favourites. This race is set up for those that want to play trifectas and first fours and maybe try and find a winner beyond that $4 price. You're right, Synchronise, and a horse that really does explode fresh up and second up. And of course we see her second up coming up on the weekend. But it was just aided by a good ride by Craig Zaki, because he knew that this horse can obviously show this turn of foot off the back of good speed, and really did produce that. I did like Green Aeon's run, and I thought Green Aeon's run was terrific with the extra work that he had to do. Look, of course, he does drop back to the 53 kilograms. He carried 58.5 on that occasion, and look, he's back to 53 kilos with a low draw. Look, there's a lot of speed in this race. Whenever Johnny's in the race, there's always going to be speed, and he's drawn out wide, and he's going to be hurtling to the front. But there's a couple of others here as well that are drawn low that mean that the speed's going to be on here. And I just like the fact that yes, he's an on-speed runner, but maybe he's a horse you can just get a sweet spot in that speed and just tuck him behind, and that's why we've probably seen that market move around him.
Well, that was a good form race. Well, relatively good form race. It was a good win, Steve. But look, the form race probably potentially the season for sprinters would have to be the railway, and Malt Time comes out of that race, doesn't it?
Outstanding one. We'll see here visually the last 400 to 500 metres. Malt Time, who finished fifth, went back from a wide gate, was last at the turn, coming down the outer, and makes a similar run in terms of sections, which we'll bring up shortly graphically, than Levante. It's just rock hard form. You've got Imperatriz, who's a $1.40 shot early on the card. You've got Babylon Berlin, who just got bombed late, finishes second, subbed this performance in a Group 1 Telegraph, and the third horse, Levante, who won the Telegraph, went back-to-back last Saturday. You see all green there to the 635 and change. Last 633 and change, 3.8 lengths above par, and the class rating was through the roof as well. That is the form race I'm looking for when I'm backing into the Concord Handicap on Saturday afternoon. Now, you look at the sectionals broken down Malt Time, what she produced from last position. You'll see it here, last 6.42. It was almost identical to Levante. Malt Time there highlighted there, who finished fifth in the race, the last 844 and change. But look at these comparable to Levante. Levante 33.37 for the last 600, a fraction quicker than Malt Time, but then Malt Time runs a quicker last 400 and last 200 v Levante 22.35 and 11.43 compared to 22.41 and 11.46. That's Group 1 sectionals. Yes, she goes up in weight, being handicap conditions versus set weights and penalties in the railway, but she's still clearly the horse to beat. Purely, she comes out of the right races, Thad.
Yeah, okay, that was a strong run. I mean, I'm sure Malt Time's in your numbers. What do we do with Bonnie Lass, Paul? How are you going to attack this Concord?
Well, late scratched just before the railway, so
yeah.
I hope she didn't pull a hammy like Michael Clark, but at the top of the market there, she's certainly a big bet. But as BP said, this is a wide open race. She's a big chance. I see Malt Time, even after Stephen has shown us those very, very impressive numbers, she's on a wee bit of a drift.
Yes, she is. Look, I rated her roughly around that $4.60, $4.80 mark. You get the over round, got her price in the $4.20. So I'm not saying she's huge overs, but I just feel she comes out of the right race. BP's already alluded there's strong tempo on this race. There's 2 or 3 horses that have drawn well, that will go quick to the 600. That will suit Malt Time from barrier 4. Hopefully she can be no worse in midfield. She has low tactical speed, but with that gait, hopefully she can be in midfield and blending into the race at the top of the straight. And I just got a question mark out of that form. Synchronise, you saw all those figures down the bottom of the screen. They're all red, 4 lengths below standard. Synchronise was very good on the eye, but numbers didn't quite back it up, and she meets a couple horses that she bet that day worse off in the handicaps. You got El Vencedor and Green Aeon, 5.5 and 4.5 respectively, better off v Synchronise on Saturday afternoon. So on that score, that's why I just keep coming back to Malt Time.
Okay, who else you got in your numbers?
Well,
Paul, anyone else? Or, yeah.
Even though Stephen's numbers aren't as good for the Synchronise win, I thought on the eye, she did look very, very good.
Yeah.
Now, she's 4.5 kilos worse off against Green Aeon from that race. Okay. So I can understand why we've had a bit of a crunch. on the ex-Hong Konger. $8 into $6
Yep.
now. It was a lovely win, first start in New Zealand, and take nothing away for finishing second to Synchronise. He lost a plate in that race. I really like the look of Green Aon.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll stalk the leaders. He had a tough run last
BP's
start.
got him in the numbers
wide.
as well. Yeah.
I did,
On
and
speed.
there's taking nothing away from Bonnie Lass or Malt Time. I just sometimes horses just run their race as the race pans out. So if the sectionals aren't good, it's not because the horse isn't good. It's just the way that the race has been run.
It's still an art form, this, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, to some degree, certainly it is. BP, surmise the Concord. Which way are we heading this year? Plenty of chances, as we mentioned.
Yeah, there is, and like Bonnie Lass is probably the one horse who's the favourite who we haven't really mentioned, and we know that she's a class act. She missed out in running, of course, in the railway, and she's a Group 1 performer. I mean, we're talking about Group 1 performance by Malt Time, who's run the right sectionals, and then there's been the Group 1 Quinella out of the race. So, as Stephen said, that's the right form reference, and Bonnie Lass also does have the right sort of form, and hence why she's got the 60 kilograms, and she's got a tricky gate to contend with, but we know she's got that X factor in class as well. Look, I like Green Aon. I've gone with him as my top selection. I just feel as though he was a bet at $8, and he's still a bet at around that $6 quote if you're just trying to find some type of value around the race. And then, yeah, look, Malt Time is a horse that very wary of late. I think we've mentioned a few times here on the show, liking the fact of her progression this season. There was a good race in her. She's already won a good race. That, of course, being a stakes race in the Legacy Lodge. Now can she pull off a Concord handicap? And look, maybe so with her at the second line. But, yep, I'll go with Green Aon at the $6.
Sounds like you might be a Green Aon man as well.
Going to be carrying a lot of weight then.
Yes, absolutely. Steve, Malt Time for you, clearly.
Malt Time for me, just on Bonnie Lass. Look, she's had the odd little setback, nothing serious, but just took her out of the Telegraph and the Railway. But just in terms of being a mare and having to carry 60 kilograms, I want to see her back at Te Rapa, where she's proven before in feature races. Next start in the Waikato Sprint at Wait for Age, she'll be better conditioned there.
Okay, we're going to move on, guys. We're running out of time, as always, here on the leg up, but we don't want to go without touching on the Cambridge Stud Elman Zor Trophy over the 1200 metres, Stephen. Or, well, if the Karaka 3-year-old was a match race, this may well be as well.
Possibly, but the market's telling us slightly different here, Thad. They're backing number 2 in Maven Bell heavily over Pier. $2.20 off a peak of $2.30 and holds 6 times more money than the second fave in Pier, who's hard in that second line at $3.20 off the original price of $3. Then you default to the third fave, double figures around Bella Mio at $11, Sans Doot $12, Master Brutus 11 out to 13, Charma Rio 21 into 16. There is a firm there for number 4 for the James Wellwood trained galloper. Cover Me Sunshine at $16, Grayson Gray at $16, and I Choose You Best to the Rest at $31. So, look, overall summary, and a lot of people declaring this as the horse to beat, not just in this race, but in terms of the best bet on the day is number 2, Maven Bell, $2.30 to $2.20.
Gee, boy, BP, we were talking about 3-year-olds last week and the strength of them, and we hadn't then up pops Maven Bell, if just forgotten about her, and she donkey licked them on the 8th of January there at Pukekohe on her return, didn't she?
Wow, what a performance. Look, she really did bury them, didn't she? With the way that she was just able to amble up to them and then just put them away with a devastating turn of foot, and the numbers back it up too, doesn't it, with how she's run. Look, can she back it up second up? We heard throughout the week that, you know, her work wasn't quite up to to standard with what they were hoping for on Tuesday. But, man, she's a Group 1 horse. I mean, and so was the biggest danger in the race too, in Pierre, who's coming back at the 1200 metres. So I guess always that in the back of your mind, second up, with how she's really just put them to the sword here about a week and a half ago. So she's the one. And with the barrier draw, I'm guessing you're going to see something similar in terms of good speed up front and looking to try and produce something over the top. Look, I think Pierre's a horse that, yes, 1200 metres first up off the back of a 2,000 guineas victory, but he's got 60 kilos. But, boy, I don't want to just completely knock him and drop him because of those little reasons, because He showed something with his Hawke's Bay Guineas victory before going to Christchurch to declare him as the 2000 Guineas favourite. Look, he is a good horse who's got his eyes set on running in Sydney, and he'll step up to the mark over there. I'm just wary if he starts getting out to a price. I mean, he's drifted already out to $3.20. You don't want to see him drift out any further and start thinking, well, does he start becoming a bet in the race if he starts pushing out? So that was the one watch I would be looking at in terms of market around Pierre. If you do like the horse, maybe just sit on your hands for a touch and see where the price might end up with him.
Yeah, well, we know the class of Pierre, Paul.
Well, he deserved a rest after that 2000 Guineas win.
Yeah, well, it was a great win in the 2000 Guineas, and you know he's $3.20 now. As BP says, treat him lightly at your peril, because this was tough, wasn't it, in the 2000 Guineas?
That's exactly what it was. You cannot question his spirit or his stamina. He gave it everything there. The big question mark for Pierre, of course, is back to 6 furlongs, fresh sharp. I don't know. I don't know. But maybe if he drifts a wee bit more, he does become a lot more attractive. But it'll be a tough gig to turn up over the 1200 metres and beat this sort of field, especially the likes of Maven Bell, who is already a Group 1 winner as a 2-year-old in the Sistema, beat some very, very classy types in that 2-year-old season, like the Lickety Split, Dynastic, Waitak, Wolverine. So you can understand Opie Bosson aboard. Did we mention that Opie Bosson usually has a
hear any more about that guy?
Karaka Million. The 11 barrier, I don't think worries him too much.
No, go back.
And she looked just so good, winning last time out. So, yeah, all arrows point towards Maven Bell. Having said that, I'm going to throw a $51 shot at you.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
Look, I'm willing to have a little each way go on Sir Sterling.
Right down the bottom, number 8, Sir Sterling.
Look, a long shot, yes. But look, has got the inside draw. A guy named Damien Lane jumps on.
Have heard of him.
Yeah. So that's certainly a big plus for Sir Sterling. And I don't think it was the worst run when third at Topol. So a top 3 or top 4. At the moment, $7 top 3. I'm willing to have a little larrick there.
Good one for your DIY power play. Steve, look, are we concerned about the sort of lack of money for Pierre? Is that telling us what we need to know here around that runner?
I think so. I think you've got to be a little bit concerned. I think the stable made it clear that he's got natural improvement. He hasn't run, as we mentioned, since the 2000 Guineas. And you look at horses that have raced since the 2000 Guineas on the fresh side, they've needed the run. The one that comes to mind is Desert Lightning and the Uncle Remus. So, look, he'll take benefit. He's got the draw to run a race, so he does have the draw, but I've rated him north of $4, so I won't be touching the 320 until he touches $4. That's the conversation I potentially may have. But just back on Maven Bell, she's drawn barrier 11. She's always going to get back to the last third. There looks to be tempo. She's run a nice figure. On that day, she ran the quickest last 600, which she had to because the way she mapped. But her last 200 wasn't flash, but then you look on the IOP, was very kind on her in that last furlong, so no knock there. And look, I've got her as the horse to beat, not just in this race, but I reckon she's the best bet on the day when it comes to Pukekohe over the 6-race card. There is a couple of horses I should mention. Cover Me in Sunshine. Won a rating 60 at Ottawa Park a few weeks ago, went on speed. It was a really strong number for that grade of race, over 3 lengths above par. Probably still has to improve a couple of lengths to match the top 2. But I think she gets a nice little run here, the 3-year-old filly, just in behind speed. And when you're comparing her price at $16 v Sand Dutes, who won a maiden 1200 on the same day, Cover Me in Sunshine rated 4 lengths in front of Sans Doute. So there's the disparity I'm not comfortable with when you're just comparing Cover Me in Sunshine v Sans Doute, who there's roughly 4 or 5 points between them. But look, she can probably run above betting expectations. I'm not saying she's a winning chance, but maybe one of those horses you want to spice in terms of exotic bet types.
Okay, BP, you got 10 seconds to surmise the El Manzoor trophy for us. Which way are you going?
Oh, gee, Hunty took my Cover Me in Sunshine. I like Cover Me in Sunshine as well. I think it's a big chance of running in the money. Grace and Grey, if you're trying to play trifectas in first fours as well, I think she's a big improver. You look at her 2-year-old form. She was beaten, yes, on a wet track last time at behind Bellamio. Big improver. And I think she's another that's a must for your trifectas. We'll go Maven Bell, though, as the top pick, just in front of Pierre. I think Pierre's going to run a race.
Paulie, which way? One, Maven Bell, Pierre.
Maven Bell, and I think the boys have boosted her as well. So
Gee, what did they do that for?
I don't know why they did that.
So just on pair, BP, what price to you does he become a bet? $3.20 just quickly.
Thought I had 10 seconds. Look, I think
You did,
like you said,
Steve.
around that. I thought around $4. That was the line in the sand about having a bet, because if it gets somewhere around there, surely $4.20, $4. Yep, save a bet.
Okay, guys, best bets time. We'll start with you, BP. You've had a week off, so we need you fresh and running. Which way did you go for your best bet of the week?
Look, I'm going to roll the dice a touch here with my best bet, and I'm going to go to the feature race of the night. And I think it is the feature race of the night because it's the last race of the evening, and it is the 3-year-old Karaka Million Classic. I'm going to go with Wild Knight as my best bet. I think he's got a lot in his favour. I thought his run was terrific. His numbers back it up. He's got the right man aboard in Opie Bosson, and I will mark Wild Knight as my best bet of the week.
Wild Knight will be awfully hard to beat, no doubt. Yeah, going up against Legato BP, you're brave. Paulie, you're coming off a win. I think we had a couple of wins last week, so
Yeah, we did.
well done. Where did you go with your bet of the week?
I'm going to go with race 5 at the Karaka Million Night, the Concord, and I really like the look of Green Aeon. Here he is, winning first. Led all the way, pretty much. And I think Sam Spratt will have the opportunity to take him to the lead from that 3 barrier. $6 at the moment. I'm very, very happy with that in a wide open race.
Yeah, okay, going for a bit of value, as you tend to do. You got the value home with another Bella last week. Well done for the Patterson team. Steve, you also had a win. The horse eludes me.
Mercurial.
Mercurial in the first of the day. Where'd you go this week?
Yeah, I'm going to go try and build a bank earlier in the day at Trentham. Race 2, the maiden mile. Testify me. Like career to date, 2 runs thus far, both encouraging. Debut run, 3rd behind the Smart One and Diamond Thief. And then you see this here graphically, her last start 3rd and behind Rusty Lane, who has been a sub-winner on a Premier Day. And the second horse was very unlucky at Te Rapa on Wednesday. 5-year-old that does lack tactical speed, but as a result, as a result, she can find herself in awkward positions. But look, I reckon that's negated by the step up to 1,600. I think she's a bet. Testify me at 4.5.
Okay, very good. Bit of value there. We can take a nice little multi. Paul, wrap it up for us. So we've got the Twitter poll, I presume.
Yes, we have got the Twitter poll up, and we're steering away from Karaka Million Night because the boys have already boosted a runner in every single race at Karaka. So, what is it? The poll this week: race 5, Pisco Sour at Trentham; race 6, Nest Egg, and then down to Gore, race 8, Humbucker; race 9, Redmond. Don't forget to vote and leave a comment for your chance to go and to win a $100 bonus bet. And last week's winner was at Stent Matt.
Matt Stent did the business. Well done to you. Use your $100 bonus bet wisely, Matt, and good luck with that. We've got the bonus back promo every race, Pukekohe, on Saturday. All 6 races.
All 6 races at Pukekohe, but don't forget, we've also got the bonus back blitz. Earlier on in the day, the first 4 races from Gore, Trentham, Randwick, and the Valley.
How many races is that?
That's 22 races on Saturday, which will be bonus back enabled. So there's plenty of opportunities for punters to get on there. Of course, we've still got the no deduction summer promo, and that's TAB summer as well. Goes right through to the end of March, so you can bet with confidence.
You certainly can. There's plenty to bet into. Also, boys get paid. Punters Club open till start of race 1, so get into that Karaka Million hub the guys have put together on the TAB website. Pops, it's exciting times. Can't wait for tomorrow night, and I'm sure you'll be front and centre.
Yep, can't wait, mate. It's going to be a big old go here with the first race just after 4 o'clock. We'll have Aidan Rodley here, Lee Thinnis, and of course all the calls from George Simon. A lot of sellouts. There's only the racebook's gone. We've only got like a little bit of general admission to go. So yep, everything's all ready to go, and yeah, can't wait for it. Something a little bit different held here out at Pookie, but I reckon they're going to make it a boomer, judging on how the crowd was here on Boxing Day.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, to Karaka, glad that didn't happen at 10:01 and happened at 11 o'clock. Your paper flying west there. Pops, thank you, boys. You'll be looking forward to tomorrow night?
Oh, very much so. And, yeah, good luck, guys.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks, Stephen Hunt. We'll see you in 7 days' time on The Leg Up.